Tomorrow, senators will vote on two opposing bills to try to end the government shutdown, but both are likely to fail. Exactly 1 year ago today, a bipartisan duo launched on New Day their last-ditch effort to protect Dreamers and enhance border security. Watch this.
We all recognize, Republicans and Democrats, that the issue of the Dreamers is not going to go away, and that we really do have to address it, just not only because it's the right thing to do, but because politically it's the right thing to do as well.
I think we can come up with something pretty good that he can then endorse, and we can get it done.
Joining us now is Senator Angus King, independent from Maine, who you just heard there exactly 1 year ago. Back then, Senator, you were hopeful. You said, I think we can get it done. How have we gone from that hopeful bipartisan moment to this impasse today?
Well, I have to say, I did think we could get it done, and I thought we could get it done up till the night before the vote when the White House absolutely torpedoed that bipartisan bill. We ended up getting 54 votes. We needed 60. We had 60 the night before until the White House threatened to veto and basically pulled the rug out from under us after 6 weeks of negotiation. Mike Rounds and I were very optimistic, and I think we had a reasonable compromise, but that went by. And that underlines one of the problems here that we've got, Allison, is if this were a congressional issue, we could work it out. We could get in a room, Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer or Mike Rounds and I or whoever, a group, could get in a room and work it out on a reasonable common sense basis. The problem is you've got this third party out there called the president, and we could work for months, come up with something, and then he would say, no, that won't do, and out it goes. And that's exactly what happened last winter. So that's where we are right now. Our negotiations among ourselves are very frustrating because we never know exactly what the White House position is going to be. We don't know how it's going to shift from day to day. Yeah. And we don't even know whether if they tell us today it's something they can support, if tomorrow they indeed will support. Ask Mitch McConnell about that.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I think you have just spelled out for everyone how hard it is. I think it was Chuck Schumer who said it's like, you know, nailing Jell-O to a wall trying to negotiate with an ever-shifting position. But now you might have some hope. And the president has spelled out and laid out his plan as it currently is, and I think Mitch McConnell is going to have you all vote on it tomorrow. So as we understand it, $5.7 billion for the border wall, a 3-year DACA temporary extension that may or may not have been made moot by the Supreme Court yesterday, temporary 3-year temporary protected status extension, $12.7 billion in disaster aid. Now, asylum law changes. These are fascinating. They snuck them in on page 1,271 of this bill, and these are big changes. And then extension of Violence Against Women Act. Are you going to vote for this tomorrow?
No, and you put your finger on one of the problems. There are really two problems. One is, do we accede to the president's request, whatever it is today, with a gun to our head, with a shutdown, with 800,000 people furloughed, not being paid? That's one of the real underlying issues. And I have to share with you, that's one of the real concerns among the Democratic caucus as I hear them talking, because the fear is this will become the routine way to do business around here. We give in to the president today. We say, okay, it's only the little bit of the wall, it's not the whole wall, and there are some things for DACA. The problem is we've got a major debt ceiling vote coming up in March. We're going to have budget votes over the next 2 years. Is this going to be the way he does business every time? And I think that's one of the important issues. The other piece is, you touched on, is even this supposed compromise, which, by the way, a compromise involves two parties coming together. This wasn't a compromise. This was the president's offer. But in it were these major changes in asylum laws. And this is typical. This is Stephen Miller's signature. You think you've got a deal, and then he'll stick something in at the end to try to gain a little bit more in terms of limiting immigration, even legal immigration. And now we've got something that really it makes it impossible to vote for.
And so,
I was disappointed when Mike Rounds said he wouldn't vote for the second bill, which essentially says, let's sit down and work it out and take 2 or 3 weeks, put the government back into functioning, turn it back on, and let people go back to work, and then let's work this out as any other political issue.
So, Senator, I mean, as of today, the TSA, the FDA, the FBI, They are telling us, they are all trying to sound an alarm in one way or another, telling us that they believe that the country's safety here on day 33 is actually at risk, be it our food supply or be it that the FBI is now saying that they don't have the money to continue investigations into MS-13, into interdicting heroin, into counterterrorism. So what keeps you up at night today?
That does keep me up at night because, you know, as you know from having been with you a number of times, I work on the Intelligence Committee and the Armed Services Committee. I know that we face threats in this country, and it's ironic, one might say ridiculous, that in the name of national security, we're jeopardizing national security. That's one of the just terrible side effects of this whole thing. We shouldn't be trying to govern in the midst of this kind of a government shutdown. The Congress has a role to play here. The president has a role to play, but the president doesn't get to say, if you don't give me my way, I'm just going to take my toys and go home, or in this case, I'm going to shut down the government. That's not the way our system works, and I think he's got to come to grips with the reality that he's not the CEO of America. He doesn't get to say, we're going to build a wall. He's got to persuade Congress. And it's interesting, Allison, he had 2 years with total Republican control of both houses. Why didn't this come up then? That's when they had the numbers. They could have gotten something through. The dirty secret is that I haven't met many members, Republican members of Congress, that are all that enthusiastic about the wall. You know, they say, well, it would be nice to do. Everyone wants to do border security. Everyone, both sides. I certainly do. I voted for it a number of times.
Yeah.
The question is doing border security that makes sense, that is cost effective, and not doing something that is basically the fulfilling of half a campaign promise. Remember, the other half was Mexico was going to pay for it. This whole shutdown is about us paying for it, not Mexico.
Well, Senator Angus King, you are an independent. You talk to both sides. It is fascinating to hear just how stuck we are and to hear you explain how we've gotten here. So thank you very much. We'll be watching what happens.
Thanks, Allison. We're going to keep at it.
Good to hear.